right, so thanks everybody for coming to Septic Systems 101. I'm Rachel Young, I'm with N Agency, and I will be facilitating the presentation today. Our speaker is Erica Wellborn. She's an environmental health specialist with Tacoma-Pierce County Health Department. At the end of the presentation, we'll be taking Q&A from the audience. We'll be using the Q&A tool here in Zoom. And we have Tina Friedrich and Robert Suggs who will be answering questions, and they are also environmental health specialists. So go ahead and take it away, Erica.
Thanks, Rachel. So I work in the surface water program at Tacoma-Pierce County Health Department. I've been with the health department for 20 years or so. I've had the opportunity to work in several areas of environmental health. The health department's able to provide this presentation thanks to our partnership with Pierce County and the funding from the Environmental Protection Agency. I also want to thank the health department on-site program for teaming up with us to share with us information. I'd also like to introduce my teammates in this venture, also Bob Suggs, we talked about that just a little bit, and Tina Friedrich. All three of us have on-site experience. Tina and I are now working in the surface water program, and they will give us some technical information when we're done, help us with some questions. Okay, so we're going to start with a poll, because I would like to get a little more information about you before we get to the good stuff. So where do you live? This question, I want to clarify a little. It's more about where is the septic system that you care about? Where is the one you own? I know some people rent, some people live in in their properties that have septic systems. So I know we're talking about a lot of different things here. We're doing some specific work in Lake Tapps and Key Peninsula. And so if you don't own or live on a septic system in Pierce County, please choose observer. And that goes for the people from other agencies as well. And for my mom and dad. Hi, Mom and Dad. It's possible they're up past their bedtime. Okay, are we done? 13 of 16. We can roll with that. So we have a good chunk of Key Peninsula. We have a lot of observers. And yay, Lake Tapps. We're almost there. So it looks like 7% lakes, or do we wait till they close it? I'm sorry, getting ahead of myself. Okay, so we got someone from Lake Tapps, a couple people from Key Peninsula, and someone from Central Pierce, several others, and observers. Thank you for participating in that. Okay, so we're gonna move on to a second poll question. That helps me out. So have you ever attended a septic system educational presentation by Tacoma-Pierce County Health Department? So we've been doing these for many years. A lot of them are out in Key Peninsula. We do a lot of focused work out there because of the shorelines. All right. Oh, we got some people. This is fascinating. So most people haven't. We have a couple who have. That's great. Thanks for coming back. Okay. Nice. Thanks for coming back. Welcome to you new folks out there. So I'm going to give you a little bit of background with septic systems. So next slide, please. And well, we're going to talk about septic system basics, do's and don'ts, troubleshooting, and resources for you. So a little bit of background, next slide, please. A little bit of background on the septic design history. Septic systems were created out of necessity. Poop was killing people. Cholera was repeatedly causing pandemics. And these days we can thank septic systems for protecting us from cholera, typhoid fever, and other diseases like those. Septic tanks were first introduced in France. They were first seen in France in the 1880s. Ooh la la. In the 1950s, the United States Housing and U.S. Public Health Service began requiring drain fields to disperse liquids from septic tanks. And today, about 25% of people in the U.S. are on septic systems. Next slide, please. So this slide is a kind of a good overview of a septic system. I have the text of what I'm going to cover while we're talking about this slide on the next slide, so you will have it written down. But what I want to talk about is kind of where does all that sewage go? So anyway, your household water, all your household water should be going into your septic system. That includes water from your toilets, sinks, and from your laundry. The water flows from your house into the septic tank and then out of the tank into the drain field. The drain field provides the disposal and the treatment. Good bacteria in the soil treat the bad bacteria that's in the sewage. Grass and plants over your drain field take up the water through their roots, and some evaporates, and the rest goes into groundwater. So you see that little white pipe sticking up between the house and the tank? That is called a clean out, and we're going to talk about that a little bit more later. So next, please. So this is just kind of some text of the stuff that I covered, but I know some people process information differently, so I wanted them to have a little bit of time with the text. And then we are going to talk about, in the next slide, we have a really good visual of a septic tank. So this slide is really great because it shows a good visual of the tank. Tanks operate full. A lot of people, when I was in code enforcement, I used to get calls, oh, my tank's full, my tank's full. It's like, that's good. We want our tanks to be full. So 1 gallon flows in, 1 gallon flows out. You can see how the solids settle at the bottom and the fats float on the top. Between those layers is the clear effluent. That clear water, we call it effluent. The baffles ensure that only the clear effluent goes out to the drain field. Modern septic tanks have 2 compartments, as shown here, but some older systems have only 1 compartment. Some tanks have outlet filters in the outlet baffle, so if you have an outlet filter, it's something that you'll want to maintain. You can clean that. We're at least yearly. You want to clean that, and you can hold it over the opening to the first compartment, hose it out. Make sure you're wearing gloves and washing your hands. Although I have used a garbage bag to reach into the septic system, worked really well because the handle was below the sewage. So yay. And let's see. Okay, we're going to go on to another poll question. Do you know where your drain field is? Yes or no? Yeah, this sounds like a really simple question. Well, it's in my backyard, but the reality is not all septic systems are in people's backyards or right near their house. As development has been going on, the properties that are easy to develop and have good septic soil, those all get developed. And so now we're moving on to developing, sometimes we have the drain field hundreds of yards away. So that's just something to keep in mind when you're on a septic system. So let's go on to the next slide. And so we're going to talk about some of the septic do's and don'ts. Next slide. So maintaining your septic system is really important. You need to get it inspected, and just get it inspected regularly. So why do we do that? You want to preserve your system, prevent operational problems, and prevent surfacing sewage that can cause illness. The cheapest system is the one that you have right now. A septic system can be very expensive. You want to ensure that your existing system keeps working for a long time before you need to replace it. It's easy to celebrate not having a sewer bill. I get that, but spending money to maintain your system is essential to keep it a good working order. The state requires regular maintenance of septic systems. The frequency depends on the type of system you have. We recommend maintaining a service contract with a septic professional. This way you don't have to worry about when your next inspection's due, and it's easier to budget for. One word about the inspections and COVID-19 restrictions that are going on right now. When we're recording this, you might be watching it later, but routine maintenance inspections, they are allowed under essential services. Certified professional septic inspectors do not need to be in contact with you when they do an inspection, and they don't need to enter your house. Okay, next slide, please. So getting your septic system pumped is part of regular maintenance, but you might not need to pump it every time you have it inspected. The need for pumping varies depending on the system's capacity, how much water is used, and if you have a garbage disposal or something like that. Water use is very different between a retired couple and a family of 5. The general rule is to pump every 3 to 5 years to help prevent the drain field from clogging with solids from the tank. So we also want to use water efficiently. If you remember the picture of the tank, it's 1 gallon in, 1 gallon out. So when you use a lot of water in a short period of time, it means a lot of water gets pushed out into your drain field. And your drain field can only take up to so much water at any given time. If it gets too much water, it could cause sewage to surface. To prevent those drain field problems, you want to use water efficiently. It's a good idea to only do full loads of laundry, full loads of dishes, and spread heavier water use out throughout the week. Don't do all your laundry on one day would help. So we also want to, something I've seen is long showers could cause sewage to surface. Seems like teenagers either take forever in the shower or you can't get them to take one, but if you have a showering teenager, you might want to consider time limits and low flow plumbing fixtures. So another teenagery thing that can happen is students bringing home laundry on the weekends from college. So just make sure you're spreading out those loads to give your system a little time to recover. So maintaining your drain field is something. Yes, thank you. So keep your drain field clear. We want to, if you're driving over or parking on your drain field with cars or heavy equipment, that can damage your drain field by compacting the soil, making it difficult for effluent to infiltrate into the soil. Livestock hooves can also crush pipes in your drain field. Putting a patio, driveway, or sport court over your drain field impairs the soils. They're less efficient in treating the sewage, and it reduces the evaporation. So all in all, it just puts way more of a burden on your drain field. So you want to consider how you landscape your drain field also. Grass and plants have shallow roots, and those are the best, but because they help absorb water and prevent erosion. Roots love sewage. That's fine with small grass roots, but it's a problem with larger roots from trees and bushes. If they can find a way in, and they will clog your drain field pipes. So it's another potential problem. So walk the area of your drain field routinely, looking for wet spots and surfacing sewage. Pro tip, sometimes you can smell it before you see it. And for some of you, your drain field might actually be on a different property, like on an easement, when there are shared drain fields, like community drain fields. But you are still responsible for the maintenance, and you need to check it regularly to make sure it's not having a lot of growth over it, make sure somebody hasn't created a off-road track over it or something like that. That stuff does happen. So another way to protect your system is keeping rain runoff from roofs and driveways from saturating your septic tank area and your drain field. It's that oversaturation with water that prevents the system from working properly. And now I have some photos. Ew, right? Okay, full disclosure, I did not take these photos. But they show what it looks like when roots invade and damage your pipes in your system. So the other two photos at the bottom show sewage right at the surface of the ground. Concrete lids aren't watertight. When the groundwater, when the groundwater is over the tank like that, you kind of get a situation where it's like, you got chocolate in my peanut butter scenario. Is there groundwater in your sewage, or is there sewage in your groundwater? Well, the answer to both questions is yes. And I wish I knew the story behind that lawnmower because it's priceless. Okay, so now we're going to talk about some things we do not want to put down the drain. So everything you put down the drain goes into your septic system. Sometimes people flush items that should go in the garbage. So please don't do that. Avoid flushing hair, feminine products, condoms, diapers, cigarette butts, dental floss, cat litter, rubber gloves, sanitizing wipes, paper towels, and medication. And anything else that doesn't fit into that category that is not from you and water from your house. So this includes the flushable wipes. They don't break down like toilet paper does. So they just fill up your tank with solids and then you have to pump it more frequently. You want to also avoid chemicals like motor oil, paint, antifreeze, solvents, and other toxic substances. You can bring those to household hazardous waste disposal facilities. Use caution with cleaning supplies and avoid drain cleaners. Those are both really hard on your tank. Food scraps should be composted or discarded in the trash instead of going into the septic system. And you want to avoid putting like water from your hot tubs or spas into your septic system because that volume of water can just blow it out and cause surfacing sewage. So why won't you put those things in your septic system? Well, the chemicals and medication that can kill the bacteria and help break down the solids in the tank. A properly working septic tank needs that bacteria, so we need to be gentle with that bacteria. Chemicals are not broken down in the tank and they can contaminate soil and groundwater. Solid items can clog and damage the system. Eventually a pumper will have to come and pump them out and take them away, but that is way more expensive than having garbage service to just throw those stuff away. So what about septic tank additives? When the state approves a septic additive, that only means it won't harm your system. So we don't recommend additives. You don't need them. The only thing that should be going into your system is the used water from your household, what your body creates naturally, and the paper we use to clean it up. The next slide's about garbage disposals, and I've already covered that, but a good sink strainer is your friend. You don't want to put extra solids into your system. And next slide, please. So keeping your lids secure, this is really important. It's a big safety issue. So if you have risers for your tank access, the lids need to be screwed down into the risers so they can't be moved. Watch for cracks that may develop. Sunlight weakens the plastic and riser lids, and cracked lids need replaced. Excuse me. Concrete lids also crack and chip over time. Check the lids after an inspection to be sure that they have been safely secured. So now I'm going to tell you why this is such a high priority for us. Every year kids fall into septic tanks. Most of the kids that fall into septic tanks drown, and it's preventable and it's heartbreaking. So this is something we can be doing to protect our community. So want to be doing that. Okay, next slide. Moving on to septic system troubleshooting. So I'm going to go through some of the red flags. So for plumbing issues and things like that. Slow draining fixtures, toilets won't flush properly, and wastewater flooding your bathtub. These kinds of issues, it's tough to tell if it's really the plumbing causing the issue or the septic system. It could be a clogged pipe between your house and your tank, or it could be a drain field issue causing the backup. Next slide, please. So signs that you're having a septic issue include outdoor odors, surfacing sewage, obviously, areas of soft, bright green wet spots that you may or may not have to mow around, liquid above the tank or drain field, or an alarm that goes off regularly and then stops. I think of those as brown flags. So something that will help you assess an issue is to look inside that clean out. If you look in that clean out and there's standing water in it, you want to make sure your filter's clean. Sometimes it'll back up because of the filter. But if it's not your filter, you're going to want to call your septic service professional. Something that happens is people can confuse plumbers and septic service professionals. Plumbers are not certified to work on septic systems. They can work on pipes leading to the tank, but not beyond that. Homeowners are allowed to clean their filters and can work on plumbing from their tank, house to the tank. Any work from the tank to the drain field needs to be done by a septic professional. So, homeowner resources. There's some of you here because your septic system's failing. It's okay. We have help. So, Craft 3, it might be able to help. They do low interest loans. They're clean water loans to repair and replace septic systems. So we're very happy to have them partnered with them. Online RME is a database where you can look up your maintenance records from 2010 on. That's when we started using online RME. So our website offers educational information, and it's also, you can look up your record drawings, excuse me. And for general septic questions, you can call our on-site septic program, 253-798-4788, or email ehsepticsystems@tpchd.org. That's the initials for Tacoma-Pierce County Health Department. It's a hard acronym to communicate on the phone, so Tacoma-Pierce County Health Department, tpchd.org. We usually offer in-person assistance on Tuesdays at our Key Peninsula office. Right now, that service is suspended. I don't know when we will be staffing the office again, but we will be staffing the office again. So there's also a septic care incentive program. So funding for these incentives can change over time. So if you're not watching this live, we may have other incentives. Key Peninsula residents with gravity or pressure systems are eligible for a discount on system inspection, riser installation, and pumping. To get the discount on risers and pumping, you have to have the inspection. So there also can be some confusion between pumping and an inspection. Having an inspection doesn't mean you have to have your tank pumped. Likewise, you can have the tank pumped and not inspected. These incentives are not for property sale inspections, and you can visit our website for more info. So just a side note, we are doing our best to adjust and maintain services through the COVID-19 event, and you may experience some longer response times than usual, and we really appreciate your patience. And I'd like to thank you all for logging in with us, and we can open it up for general questions.
Yeah, so we are ready to take questions. So at the bottom of your screen, you will see a Q&A. If you click on that, you can ask us a question and our panelists will answer them for you. So our first question is, how do I know when my septic tank needs to be pumped?
There's not an easy answer for the homeowner, because the true answer is, we tell people in general 3 to 5 years. That's a very general answer. And if that's good enough for you, 3 to 5 years. So in 3 to 5 years, you're probably going to want to have somebody at least come take a look at whether or not it needs to be pumped or not. The easiest way, call a septic maintenance company. tell them you want to have it inspected, not necessarily pumped, and they'll send a service truck out and what they call sludge judge the tank. They will measure the sludge that's at the bottom of the tank and the scum that's at the top. And the real answer is when that tank loses 1/3 of its volume, that means the solids at the top and the solids at the bottom become 1/3 of the volume of the tank, then it's time to have it pumped.
Great. So our next question is, should you leave area around your lids?
Area around the lids. Let's see, I'm not quite sure where we're going, but leave area around it. It doesn't need to be landscaped anything special. The less you put over them, the better. I'm assuming the question is that this person already has, the septic tank has risers to the surface, so there's green lids in the yard. I mean, if you put a little bit of dirt over the top of them, that's fine. I mean, the less dirt you put on them, the less dirt you have to take off when it comes time to review, have them inspected. You know, a lot of people put bird baths over them and decorative rocks and things like that. All of that stuff's perfectly fine. A little bit of dirt over the top of them if they you know, if the green lid really makes it crazy. They also make some different color other than green. You can actually buy some brown ones and some black ones and some ones that look a little bit like imitation rocks.
Great. Our next question is, while Key Peninsula does not have office hours for septic questions, are there any by appointment opportunities?
Not right now. Like Erica said, right now we're closed for the COVID-19 work. We're hoping we're going to open up soon. I can't tell you what soon means exactly. I'm sorry. If you've got specific questions, I believe, are we going to post our contact numbers at the end of this? Is that how we're going to do that?
If people want to talk to us privately, that septic systems at tpchd.org. They can send us a message and we can do everything we can to try to meet your needs for what questions you have.
Yeah, there you go. So if you got a question for Erica or me, just put us in the topic line that you'd like a phone call back from one of us, and we'll give you a call back if you want something you want to talk about privately. Perfect.
What do you consider regular inspections? What's the time period?
That depends on what kind of system you've got. Let's see. So if you've got a gravity system or a pressure system, 3 to 5 years. 3 to 5 is right. If you've got a mound system or a system that has some sort of pre-treatment or has previously been found to be substandard in some way or is questionable, those will have a 1-year inspection. And feel free, if I don't answer your question specifically, feel free to shoot back another question and I'll be more specific.
Right. And just so we're all using the same tool, the Q&A tool is the tool to ask your questions on. I see a couple coming through the chat. So if you can put your questions in the Q&A, that would be awesome. Thank you. Next question, are there credits or relief programs for elderly that are low income on Key Peninsula?
There are. Those, over the years, they have varying levels of funding available. That goes through, it used to be Pierce County Housing. Erica, help me with the name. It's now called
Community Connect, is that?
Community Connections, thank you. Yeah, that's it. So now that goes through Pierce County Community Connections. If I don't have the address, I don't think I have the email address at my fingertips, but if somebody needs that, email to EH Septic Systems and ask for that contact number and I'll get it to you.
All right, next question. Can dog poop be put down the clean out?
In general, we say no. I know that seems counterintuitive that if I can put my poo down it, why can't doggy poo go down it? The question, you know, if it's a small amount between us, it probably won't make a big deal. It probably won't make a big deal. The problem is, how much do you put down? Dog poo reacts quite differently than human poo does. It's much more solid, and you know, it really kind of boils down to, well, how much? A little bit here and there, you know, isn't too bad, but you know, if you got 4 or 5 dogs running around the property, yeah, that's gonna create a problem.
Thank you. Our next question, is there an average lifespan of a septic system?
Oh, that's a good question. The answer is no, but let's talk about it a little bit. You know, if you've got a system that was built prior to about 1970, then it was made with either concrete tiles or clay tiles. Concrete tiles have an actual lifespan. They didn't know it when they were building them, but it turns out concrete gets eroded by sewer gases. So those old concrete tiles, systems like that, eventually they just deteriorate and collapse. And there's, you know, you can try to patch them a little bit. You know, we allow 10 feet of pipe to be replaced by a septic professional, but once it gets beyond about 10 feet, 2 things are going. A, you're kind of chasing after a bad nickel, and two, it's not really working like it should, because you're reducing the size of your drain field every 10 feet you add to it. So once you've replaced 10 feet once or twice, you're probably looking at needing to replace a drain field anyway. Oops, sorry about that, everyone. If your system's if your system's that age, yeah, you can probably just start putting money away, because it's probably not going to last forever anyway. A huge amount of that depends on how you use your system. If you use it very marginally, you know, it's going to last a lot longer. If you're hitting it pretty hard, you know, you got 5 or 6 people living in a 3-bedroom house, it's not going to last as long. Pumping the tank only keeps you from overloading the system with solids, and that's why we do that. We pump the tank to keep the solids out of the drain field. Solids going to the drain field will plug it up and kill it really fast. Drain field's only meant to take liquid, as Erica was talking about. So if your drain field's older, pre-70s, start saving your nickels, because it's probably your time is coming due. After that, septic systems are made out of plastic pipes, and those systems are going to last with proper maintenance. Quote, we hope they last forever. Certainly systems made after 1980 were designed with that in mind, that this was the last septic system you'll have to have with proper maintenance, and don't overuse it.
Awesome. Our next question, what is a TerraLift repair?
TerraLift. TerraLift is a process where they come out with a machine, they push a rod into the ground, and they inject high pressure air. The idea being that if the drain field, let's see, kind of hard to go back in the slides, isn't it? We'll talk conceptually. Your drain field trench, where the laterals are, the bottom of that trench will get biomatted up. If it gets too much microbial action going on there, because you've given it too much water or too many solids, that mat gets really thick and won't let the water go out. TerraLifting can come in, blow air, shake that up, open the pores in the soil, and get that flowing again. Now, it's not a panacea though. By that I mean, if you've got an older gravity system, you know, one of these concrete tile systems, or even an older system that's with plastic pipe, if you just inject this air and shake it all up, and then go back to using the system exactly like you were before, well, guess what? All that stuff's going to come right back like it was probably within a year. On the flip side, if you've got a pressure system or even a gravity system, and you do this TerraLifting, and then you change the way you're operating it, you less people moving in the house, or you got a pressure system, you put a timer on it so you're dosing the water a little better, or you do some minor repair to the system, removing some roots or something like that. TerraLifting does a good job at jump starting a system that's struggling or has some recent work done to it.
Great. Okay, next question. Can you use bleach in a toilet?
Yeah, bleach. The answer is yes, but not very much. I will tell you a crazy story of when I was a septic designer before I came to work for the health department. I did a repair for a lady, and her septic tank and septic system was the worst smelling. And I've smelled a lot of septic systems, and I know most people say, well, that smells horrible, right? Believe me, this smelled like dead animals. It was horrendous. And we're scratching our heads trying to figure out, why is this thing doing this? And we start talking to her, and, and I go, well, what do you clean with? And she goes, oh, I clean with bleach. I'm like, well, how much bleach a day do you use? Well, I use about 2 gallons of bleach a day. Okay, well, she bleached the inside of her septic system, which killed all the microbes. And the microbes are what makes a septic system work. A septic system is a living ecosystem. The bugs and critters that are inside that septic system are consuming the solids and making them into water soluble parts that can go out to the drain field safely. If you put too much bleach in it, you kill all that environment that's happening. Pretty soon your drain field fills up with solids, and the solids are going out to the drain field much faster than the 3 to 5 years in which we recommended you have it inspected. So how much bleach? Um, Dang, I was going to look this up. The we just sent this on our web page about how much bleach to use to make a 2% bleach system. Didn't we put that on our web page, Erica, the other day? We were going to. I don't know if it ever got there.
I do not know that. I don't remember that conversation.
Okay, well, if it's not on there soon, it isn't. And if you go to the internet and search, how do I make a bleach cleaning solution? If you're using that kind of bleach solution to clean, you're perfectly fine. Anything more than that, you're kind of running the risk of putting too much bleach into the system. And, if you're using a gallon bucket of 2% bleach solution to clean up, you're completely fine. If you're pouring, large quantities of bleach directly into your toilet to clean it, yeah, you're going to create problems over time. It's all about how much, and less is more in this instance.
Great, thank you. Next question. What is a distribution box used for?
Distribution box. Okay, that's part of a common term of a distribution box is used for a gravity septic system. So if you remember in Erica's drawing, you got a septic tank, out of the water comes out of the septic tank, goes through a transport pipe out towards the drain field. When it gets out near the gravity drain field, it goes into this small box. It's usually, let's say a 2-foot square box. And it's got one pipe coming in and 3 or 4 pipes coming out. And those 3 or 4 pipes that come out are all at the same elevation. The idea being the water pours in, and then a little bit of water goes to all ports of the drain field. So it helps distribute the effluent more equally.
Great. Next question. How do we choose a reliable, honest septic company? Do you have a list of recommended companies?
We do have a list of companies who are certified with the health department. I can't say they're recommended. It's a buyer beware. We always recommend calling at least 3 people, talking to them, and see which one gives you a good feeling that you feel like you're going to get good service out of. Everybody on our list at the Tacoma-Pierce County Health Department's homepage, let's see, tpchd.org. And then you'll scroll down to septic systems on there, and down towards the bottom, you'll find a list of septic system maintenance companies.
Perfect. Are there outdoor inspections currently being done on Key Peninsula?
Outdoor inspections. I think you mean, well, the answer is yes. No matter what you mean, actually, the answer is yes. The health department's doing inspections. We're out currently doing home sale inspections and inspections for new septic designs for repairs and remodels and new construction. All the septic companies are now back to work. Yeah, I think everybody's back to work now.
All right, we have a follow-up to the bleach question. What about Ridex?
Yeah, Ridex. Ridex is a Ridex. It won't hurt your system. It's a system under a group of approved septic system additives. Um, some people believe in it. Some people believe in a lot of things. I've heard everything in the world. Oh, you should put a hamburger in your tank. That makes it work well. You should put a chicken in your tank once a month. That makes it work. Um, I had this guy when I was a septic designer telling me about this stuff that he put in his tank, and he was telling me how much he paid to put it in his tank 3 times a year. And I said, well, that's interesting. By the time you spent all the money on that for 5 years, you just had a septic professional come out, look at the system, ensure that everything's working correctly, and pump it. So take that into perspective of, do you really want to pour that stuff in your system? The state does certify those, but the level that you have to meet to be certified as a septic system additive, you have to prove you do no harm. So follow me there. You have to prove you do no harm. You don't have to prove it works or do any good. You just have to prove it does no harm. So as you can see, I'm not a huge fan of them. Some people believe in it. I think that your money's better spent saving it up and have the septic system inspected by a professional 3 to 5 times a year.
Great. So
3 to 5 years, every 3 to 5 years.
What did I say?
You were talking about the additive adding 3 times a year.
Yeah.
So inspection 3 to 5 years.
Right, 3 to 5. Yeah, thank you for making sure that's clear.
Thanks, Bob.
Okay, so our next question, is there a way to tell exactly where the sides of the buried tank are?
Yeah. I had I muted myself. So I just posted that to the chat room, and that web address there, hyperlink, will get you to a place where you can find drawings of your septic system, if we've got any. No, we have most, but not all. If your house is pre-50s, even early 60s, some of those we don't have good drawings of. But that will get you to a place where you can look up your as-built. If you go there and you don't find your as-built, on that same page, there's a link where you can ask the health department to have one of our staff search themselves and see if they can find it, because there's some tricks. Even if you don't find it there by your parcel number and address, you can also search by owner's name. If you are the original owner of the property, you can search by their names. If by chance you don't find it, ask the health department to take a look and see if they can find something, because people that do that all the time, sometimes they can find something you can't. But that's how you find it. If you don't have a drawing of it, there are a number of septic maintenance companies that are really good at finding it. If you can find the center of the lids, they find the tank, and all these guys can find the tank. They can probe and find the edges of the tank real easily. Oh, and one more thing before we go, and that's a great question. Before whoever posted, so Samuel posted that. So that's a great question to kind of link us into, hey, I'm getting ready to do some remodeling to my house. And before you get started digging, building a garage, putting in an above ground pool or an in-ground pool or any of that stuff, get a copy of your as-built and make sure you're not going to start digging up your drain field. Unfortunately, it happens a number of times a year where we get a phone call and somebody's digging out a pool or digging for their garage, and they dig up their drain field, and now they're into repairing and building a whole new drain field. If you're going to build a garage, it's going to be over your drain field. At least figure that out ahead of time so you can plan for it up front instead of finding it out as you're halfway through building your garage.
Beautiful. Next question. If you have a hot tub, can you drain the water into your septic? And if not, where should you drain it?
Yeah, don't drain it into your septic system. Septic systems aren't meant to take that extra flow of water. Just drain it out into the yard. Just drain it out and let it soak into the ground. Good question.
Yeah. Next question, is the as-built the correct setup as-built, or is there a possibility it could have been deviated from?
Well, yeah. The short answer is yes. Unfortunately, we find a fair number of septic systems that don't match the as-built because somebody's Uncle Billy came out on the weekend and helped them fix it. The really bad part about that is typically those types of repairs that somebody that's not a septic professional does, it looks like it's an easy thing to do and just rebuild it. It isn't quite as easy as you think to make it last for a very long time. So those types of repairs usually don't last very long. And then we're usually out there with a septic professional scratching our head going, well, hopefully they have used up what last little bit of good ground they have left to actually do a proper repair. So yeah, it does happen. If you've got one of those, contact a septic professional and work through that with them and trying to get it fixed.
Great. So we're getting down to our last couple of questions. So if you have more questions, we have about 12 minutes left. So use that Q&A feature. If you have specific questions about your property, it's best to email or call the health department and they can help you meet your own specific needs. So our next question is, are there septic systems still in use in the city of Tacoma?
Yeah, yes, actually there are. As it turns out, the city sewer doesn't go down every single street. There are little, if we'll call them islands that have been marooned, and for some reason the sewer just, did I say septic system? I said septic system, didn't I? The sewer system doesn't go down every single street, and there are little islands that the sewer system just marooned onto the septic systems. They come up occasionally, where it's a failing septic system and there's sewers all around, but the cost of connection is prohibitive. So we'll do a septic system repair. Yeah, I can think of off the top of my head 3 or 4 different places. There's a couple of places in University Place that were there's some of those. There's some out here down the southern end of Yakima Avenue that has some areas like that. But yeah, they are around.
Great. So our last question, we had a few people ask if we can make the slides available.
I think we should be able to do that.
Great. So we will work on making slides available.
Yep.
Do you want to try to put them on the website? Is that where people can look for them?
Probably, I'm thinking it'll be that tpchd.org/OM is our operation and maintenance website. That is the most likely landing spot. I'm not in charge of what goes on our website, so I can't make promises. Sorry.
If you would like to send an email to the, what was the email address again?
It's ehsepticsystems@tpchd.org. Those are the initials for Tacoma-Pierce County Health Department.
Perfect.
And
so if you want to
spot.
send in, yeah, so send an email to that address if you'd like to get the slideshow, and we can get that out to you. All right. Well, thank you so much, everyone, for attending the webinar. We hope this was very helpful. And Bob put a couple of links there in the chat, so grab those. And I hope everyone has a great night.